Welcome to the Baltimore Ravens Rundown. My name is Joey Peterson. I did a little bit of scientist work, okay? Put the lab coat on, put the goggles on, dove into the analytics, did my best nerd impression. I saw our channel likes for the history of this channel is at 329,472. That means we're only 528 likes away from 330,000 likes in this channel's history. If you've never liked a video, change that today. If you've done it before, do it again. And if you do it every time, hey, this one counts as well. Hit that thumbs up button to help me out. Alrighty, we asked this morning, and Eric DeCosta is doing something. If you watch this morning's video, we talked all about a possible trade for an interior defensive lineman. Well, Eric DeCosta made a move, not by trade and not for a name that probably a ton of you guys know, but regardless, we knew this team needed something in the interior of the defensive line. They needed something on that front four, and Eric DeCosta has delivered something and someone in the form of Taven Bryan. Mike Garafolo breaking the news this afternoon that Taven Bryan was signed to the Ravens practice squad, former first-round pick with the Jacksonville Jaguars, added to the mix in Baltimore with Nnamdi Madubuike, of course, dealing with that neck injury. He was picked by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. He started 46 games since 2018. He was selected, funny enough, if you go back to the 2018 NFL Draft, 3 picks before Lamar Jackson. I bet with their current situation going on in Jacksonville, they wish that they could redo that draft over. Hell, they probably wish they could redo a lot of drafts over. Regardless, here's what he's looked like over the past 4 seasons. So the last 2 with the Colts, not bad. 44 tackles combined, 3 sacks combined in the last 2 seasons. 2 years prior to that, his best year was 2022, 26 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. His final year with the Jaguars wasn't terrible either. 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Look, this was obviously necessary, given the health circumstances in the interior of the defensive line, which we're going to get to in just a second, but also just flat out given the play of the defensive line, you have to add somebody. You have to somehow shake this thing up. Maybe you can find a diamond in the rough somewhere, and maybe that diamond in the rough is Taven. I'd be surprised, if I'm being honest with you, to see him on the practice squad for long. I think that he's going to be on the active roster for the game against Kansas City, same way that Brent Urban was. Unfortunately, Brent Urban did not look that great on the active roster, but regardless, he was there. He was playing. And the reason I believe he's going to be playing against Kansas City is because it can't really get much worse than what these pass rushers did against the Detroit Lions. We've talked about this before. The pass rush win rates, they were horrific. Odafe Owe, 17.6. Travis Jones, 13.3. Mike Green, 4.2. Peebles, 0. Smith, 0. Robinson, 5.6. Basically, that statistic measures which percentage of your pass rushes do you get off your block within 2.5 seconds. So the lower it is, the worse it is. Unfortunately, all those numbers are pretty low. Look, I'm not expecting Taven Bryan to come in here and go out and get 100 sacks this season. I'm not really expecting him to do much when it comes to rushing the passer anyway. But if we can at least shore up the run, that would be incredibly helpful. Because at least last year in the beginning of the season, you had a terrible secondary, but your run defense was stout. This year, what's making me a little bit nervous is both sides of your defense, stopping the run, stopping the pass, they're non-existent. Obviously, when you add some people, you got to release some people as well. They did that twice today. Anthony Miller, released. Dearness Johnson, released as well. Multiple roster moves made by Baltimore. It's been a busy 24 hours, 12 hours for Eric DeCosta. Look, they're just trying to piece some things together. This is always what happens about a couple weeks in the NFL season. You lose some guys due to injury. You play some pretty bad football. You got to see if you can switch some things up. Grade the Taven Bryan signing for me in the comment section down below. Those red pins out. Give it an A, B, C, D, or F. It's a practice squad signing. I don't know why you'd give it an F. I don't think you can give a practice squad signing like anything less than a B-, but you go ahead. Give me your grade. Stick around, okay? Don't go anywhere. We got some really big injury news. Nnamdi Madubuike, Isaiah Likely, We got updates on both those guys coming up in just a second. Before that, I'm going to tell you guys about an awesome offer from our awesome sponsor, great friends over at PrizePicks. If you download the app, use our code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups when you play just $5. You and I, we make decisions every single day. But on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. PrizePicks offers injury reboots. If one of your players loses the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks won't count it as a loss. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you could still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You could double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. The good news is, pretty good at PrizePicks, okay? My picks tend to hit. I got the more on Zay Flowers. Half a receiving touchdown. Feel like he's going to have a little bit of a comeback performance. Speaking of a comeback performance, it's exactly what Derrick Henry needs. Give me the more on half a rushing touchdown for him. And I get it. This defense isn't good. So give me the more on Patrick Mahomes' 247.5 passing yards. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The link to this promo is in the comments and in the description of today's video. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's talk about Nnamdi Madubuike. John Harbaugh spoke today to the media after practice, said he's concerned about Nnamdi Madubuike's long-term status, and he confirmed he was not going to play this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. First off, I want to say, not very surprised by that. Second off, I want to say, I don't feel good about Nnamdi Madubuike. I'm usually glass half full. I usually like to look on the bright side of things. It's hard for me to feel that way with Nnamdi because it's a neck injury. Guys, that's incredibly serious. And it sucks too because he had an awesome year in 2023. Took a little bit of a dip in 2024. And so far, through the 2 games he played in 2025, it felt like he was getting back to who he was, to who we knew him as. And hell, now after that performance against Detroit, 0 sacks, horrible pass rushing game, you really wish he was on this team. Not practicing today. He was not the only one, right? You had a lot of guys on your interior not practicing. Nnamdi, Kyle Van Noy, Travis Jones, and Broderick Washington both not practicing. That makes kind of why you signed Taven Bryan a little bit more, obvious. The good thing is, right, Isaiah Likely, not on that list. Another big update on him. John Harbaugh spoke to the media after practice today and said he expects to and he would like to see Likely play against Kansas City. So that's some good news for your Wednesday evening. Some other good news, there are some healthy defensive linemen. Now, are these the defensive linemen we want to be healthy? No. Let's just call it what it is. 4 of these guys on the practice squad. One of them rookie. Another one of them you signed like in late July. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. That's really all you got to say. Because this is coming off of the back of the Detroit Lions game where you were terrible. And you look at the numbers for the season, and they are terrible. A 14.4% pressure rate, 30th best in the National Football League. 3 sacks, 30th best in the National Football League. A blitz percentage of 12.1%, 30th most in the National Football League. Guys, this team doesn't like to blitz, and I don't get why, because if they're not blitzing, they're not getting to the quarterback. And now you got Travis Jones not practicing, Broderick Washington not practicing. Yikes. I don't love it one bit. And if I'm being honest with you, like whatever's happening with this defensive line, it does seem like a coaching issue too. Like we're not just going to talk about the health. We're not just going to talk about their lack of performance. We're not going to just talk about what they've done so far and not mention Zach Orr. Because I think Zach Orr needs to be discussed in this. And yeah, I get it. They did not have Kyle Van Noy or Nnamdi Madubuike against Detroit in that game on Monday night. But still, you knew that going into it. It's not like either of those guys just disappeared after the second quarter. You went into that ball game knowing they weren't playing. Your scheme, your game plan had to be better than what it was. Now, like I said earlier, I like to be glass half full. I like to be positive. To offer you some positivity, you're about to go against an offensive line that, frankly, is not very good. Jawan Taylor, 45 PFF grade. Trey Smith, 73.4. Tennessee Volunteer, absolute dog. Greed Humphreys, 66.2. Kingsley Suamataia, 51.3. Terrible. Josh Simmons, 53.6. Terrible. You got an opportunity on Sunday. If you can't rush the passer against the Chiefs, I'd argue you can't rush the passer against anybody. Now, Mahomes is slippery, obviously. You knew that. You got to worry about that going into it. Even though he's not near as quick and mobile as Lamar Jackson is, he's hard to bring down. He can make plays with his legs. He's great at extending plays. But if you can't pressure him against that 5, then something is horribly wrong with this team, this coaching staff, this personnel, the health of everything. Like, we got some pretty big problems. We got one more injury update to get to before we get out of here, but I want you guys to tell me, how many times will Baltimore sack Patrick Mahomes? You let me know in the comment section down below. I'm hoping it's at least 3, but we will see. Before we get you out of here, we got to tell you about the health status of one Xavier Worthy, because that's going to be a big deal in Sunday's game. Andy Reid said that every player on the active roster is expected to participate in today's practice. That's coming from the Chiefs version of Jeff Zreback, covers the Chiefs for The Athletic. That is Nate Taylor. And then Mark Gunnels is coming from Andy Reid, said he's optimistic about Xavier Worthy playing this week. He, quote, feels good. I never want to wish an injury on a player. I'm never going to wish an injury on a player. I would like it more if Xavier Worthy didn't play than he did, but it's kind of trending that he's going to be there. He hasn't played since week 1. If you're watching that week 1 Friday night YouTube game between the Chiefs and the Chargers, he had a massive collision, not with a Los Angeles Charger, with his own teammate, one Travis Kelce, middle of the field, and he's had a shoulder problem ever since. Now, the issue he has is it's a torn labrum, or at least a partially torn labrum. Now, the interesting thing about that is he's not going to get surgery. You could fix a torn labrum, but you got to get it surgically fixed, and then you're going to be out for months. He's already said he's not going to do that. So now at this point, he's just got to learn to play through it, learn to play through that pain. Like, it's not going to get any better, really, without having this surgery. And so the thing is, like, he'll be there, but he's not going to be 100%. He's not going to be 100% for the rest of the season. And I did just get, as we are filming this video, because he sits right on the other side of the studio door, a Slack from our Chiefs Report host. He was a full participant today, and he 100% will play. And that's going to be big for Kansas City. That's going to be big for Kansas City. It's going to be big for Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be big for Andy Reid. Hell, it's going to be big for Travis Kelce. Because without Xavier Worthy, and even with him, it's not like the Chiefs have many elite weapons. Isaiah Pacheco is much worse than I think people originally thought a couple of years ago. Marquise Hollywood Brown, I mean, we know that experiment, and it's only gotten worse as he's gotten older. Tyquan Thornton, their third best wide receiver. Travis Kelce is aging. Seems like Father Time is finally catching up to him. You can win this ball game with or without him playing. I'm meaning Xavier Worthy. I'm going to, later in this week, break this game down fully. But this Chiefs team is as beatable as they've been over the last half decade. But to beat them, you're going to need a big step up from this defense. If you play the way you played on Monday night against the Detroit Lions, you will lose. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, I don't care if they have me, producer Gage, and your mom lining up at the wide receiver position, they're good enough to score points. Especially if your defense is doing what they did on Monday against Detroit. Make sure you got me followed on social media. On Twitter, on Instagram, same handle for both. Made it super easy. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. If you have not subscribed, got to make that change today and hit that sub button.